Hey everyone, welcome back to Teenager Therapy. I'm Gael.
I'm Thomas.
I'm Kayla.
And welcome back to the show. This time we're all under one camera because
It feels a little weird. It might look a little weird.
Yeah, I
Different than
don't
what
know how
you're
well
used
you
to.
can see me because it looks pretty dark on there,
But
but
it's the best we could do.
I'm like all the way forgotten. I can see myself so small.
We only had one
Oh.
camera today, so we had to make do. Last episode we didn't have video, so I'm sorry for that, but we're back. We are back. You know, if there's anyone that feels like gets us, it's you guys. But you know who we feel like doesn't get us? Our friends.
Oh,
We hate them. I'm just
put it on
kidding.
blast.
I'm just kidding. No, but I feel like that's a common experience of having so many friends yet still feeling lonely, because even though you have all these people in your life that you love and that you love hanging out with and spending time with, it doesn't feel like the type of connection that's deep enough to satisfy that craving for connection. So why does that happen? And does that happen to you guys?
I just feel so misunderstood. Even by my very, very close friends. Even sometimes by Kayla, who is my best friend. Just because we're so different, but we get each other. But I just want to find somebody who gets me completely. Someone I can be so raw and comfortable with. And not to say that I don't feel that way with some of my friends. It's just, I don't know if I found that person that really gets it. I don't know. I don't know if that's even possible, but
also, do you find that person or do you create that connection? Because I think when I hear the discussion around connections like those, it's always, I'm looking, I'm trying to find it. And it's like, I feel like it's one of those things that you're not going to find, you develop. What do you think?
I think that you can develop really good relationships and friendships with people, even if you guys are very different people, like me and Kayla. But that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that kind of feeling where you feel so understood by the other person. And it's not a matter of like feeling accepted or embraced or welcomed or whatever. It's like, wow, you get it. You really get me.
Yeah.
And this might be a more niche situation just because I'm someone who suffers from some mental stuff. So it's hard to find that relatability with my friends who don't, have those issues. So yeah, I feel like that has kind of been eating me up for the past few months because I just feel like nobody really understands me.
You know, I feel like I've talked about that same feeling on the podcast a lot. Because I feel like I've experienced that for years, but I've been trying to figure out an answer to why I feel like that and why no connection ever truly feels enough. Similar to what you're feeling and what you're describing, of that search and that thirst for a friendship where the other person just fully gets you, not just embraces you, which I think is a good comparison. One of the ways that I've been thinking about it is, I don't know, I guess I'm slightly pessimistic about finding that. I still have hope. I'm like, yeah, I hope to find that eventually, but I also remind myself that, what does that look like? I'm trying to ask myself, what would make me feel fully understood by someone and like they get it? And what would be the aspects that I'm hoping they get? So I think it starts with first asking more specific questions to like look a little deeper inside of not just, I want someone that really gets me, but it's like, what part of me do I feel like people don't get? And then I think you can kind of start to narrow it down to see what's like that missing link. Because for me, do I feel like people don't get me emotionally? Do I feel like people don't get me like intellectually? Do I feel like people don't get me romantic? I think for me, I think I have found people that get me emotionally, but I've always struggled to find people that get me creatively in a lot of ways. So for me, the thirst for that type of connection is like a search for someone that sees the world with the same what's the word? Imagination as me? Curiosity as me? So for me, I think that's what's something I feel is missing in my life.
I never thought about it in the aspects of like which part. I just see it as like the whole being. But I think Gael, because you're such a type A type person, like a very logical
You like to
person.
contemporize, like
Yeah, and so it's so interesting to hear you like try to find like the root of the problem. So funny, Gael. But I feel like during high school I struggled with that a lot, where just feeling so out of place and misunderstood. I just felt like I didn't have any super close friends that if I were to tell them something, I would get a reaction that I wanted, or like just support that I wanted. And even now with the friends I have, I love them to death. Love them all. But I do often think about the type of connection that we have, and in a lot of ways it seems, I don't want to say superficial. It's like a level above superficial, but not super intimate. And I think sometimes, like, is this something that can be forged over time, in the sense of, maybe I just need to be more vulnerable with them, or, maybe we just need to talk about deeper stuff, or is this just something that isn't going to click as much as I want it to? And so I've definitely thought about it, and even now I don't really have an answer to it. And I think right now, because I have like maybe two people, the people in the room, I have like a few people that I feel get maybe like 90%, like 80. I don't feel a strong like desire that maybe Thomas has been feeling to like find that person. Right now I'm more so like I'm content with it.
Yeah. I think what really evoked this feeling or this curiosity was the show Beef. A24's new show on Netflix came out a few weeks ago and made me sob. The ending made me sob. And it was just that moment where they really did get each other, and on like a spiritual like scale. It wasn't just we share these traits and we share this. It's like they are the same person, and they've gone through very similar upbringings and the circumstances. And I don't know, sometimes I just think that I just have so much trauma that it's hard to relate or get along with people who don't have that much trauma. Does that make sense? I don't know.
I mean, I think it makes a lot of sense, because obviously the experiences that you have shape you, so it's only natural that you sort of search it out in other people.
Yeah.
So I think
sometimes it just feels like this feels weird, but like it just feels like I've gone through so much that people really would not be able to understand me. Does that make sense?
That makes so much
like,
sense.
Like, even from an early age, before I even understood like how the world worked, there was already that feeling of not being understood because of my interests, and my family didn't get me, my classmates didn't get me. Like, I don't know, it's rough because I feel supported and I feel like people somewhat understand my situation and who I am, but at the same time it's hard for me to imagine that they can grasp how it really is. Like, they don't even know the half of it. They've only scraped the surface of who I am, and if they go any deeper, they're not gonna like the person they see, or they just won't be able to relate
or understand.
or
anything.
understand. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. I think and that's what I mean when I say it's good to be at least aware of what it is exactly that's missing. Because one, I think that's how you start knowing where to look for those type of people. Because also having those connections takes an active effort to go and search for them. So you have to know where to look. And what you're looking for even. Or else you kind of end up wasting a lot of time with people that just don't get you and would have never. But when you're aware of what you're looking for, you can kind of start to see the signs a little earlier before you quote unquote waste time with people that you feel you aren't going to be capable of getting close to. So yeah, I think for me it's just that feeling of someone that has the same curiosity as me, I think. That's what's been missing. I think emotionally I feel understood in my relationships. I think I have fun with friends, but the only thing that's missing is that I guess that stimulation of thinking similarly to me. So that's something I hope to find more of in my 20s. Which it might sound weird because, I don't know, pretentious in a lot of ways. But I think it is a fair point of, especially when you lived in your hometown, there's a certain point where you kind of crave a certain type of connection. Some people crave, it depends where you were raised. I think if you were raised in a very competitive high school nature, you might crave more emotional connection because you already have enough intellectual stimulation. But I think for me, because of where I grew up in my hometown and my school, I have the emotional fulfillment in my relationships. I just don't feel like I have that intellectual stimulation. And so I hope even being in a bigger city or being more involved in work helps me find more relationships that fulfill that need.
I mean, another part too is just the fear of not finding the people or persons. Because it's how do you even go about finding them? I mean, I'm sure it just does happen naturally and I don't know, a party, get together or whatever, but it's scary sort of thinking that well, you might not find them. And so, of course, let's look on the bright side, but
would you ever reach out to a random stranger you come across and be like, hey, you seem like a cool person, let's go do something?
On social media?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think just doing a lot of that.
I kind of,
over and over again.
Yeah.
That's something I would do more of if I had my own apartment or just somewhere to gather. I think it's a nice excuse to get a bunch of people and be like, hey, let's go do this. I'm hosting this. Mm-hmm. So I think I would love, once I have my own apartment or place, I would love to start hosting events and get-togethers. I think that's one of the things that really expands your social circle and just how fulfilled you feel with the connections you have in your life.
Yeah, I love hosting parties. I love hosting get-togethers. But I don't know. It's not really something I'm looking for. It's just something I feel that is kind of missing from my life. Not that I'm going to do any... Because I don't know if that's something you can just look for. I don't know. I don't really like to go through life looking for a specific sort of connection or whatever. I just like meeting people and seeing where it goes. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like whenever I am looking for a specific type of connection or relationship or whatever it is, it feels weird because I'm placing expectations on what it's supposed to lead into, or I am just kind of forcing it, or it doesn't feel genuine. So I don't know. I kind of like to just embrace everyone that comes into my life, but I don't know if I'm gonna actively look for that because I don't even know how you would.
How do you feel satisfied with the way you approach it currently?
Yeah, I'm not like devastated that there's this like quack of person, who understands me. It's just I notice that I just feel that a lot of my friends or just the people around me, they don't quite understand me. And it's not necessarily a negative thing. It's just I can't wait to find that person who just clicks. Like it clicks and they really get it. Like they really do. I don't know if I can explain it more articulately. Like I could articulate it better, but I just want that connection. I want to feel seen. I want to feel understood.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a feeling I've been chasing for a very long time.
It is hard.
And there's probably some of you guys who are listening who do share that connection with me. Because I've gotten DMs and like our stories are so similar and just the experiences that we have gone through together. But it's hard to do an online relationship thing. So hopefully I meet you guys in the future and we can finally understand each other and see each other and just welcome each other and our entire existence, including the trauma and stuff.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like difficult for your situation because it takes a lot more vulnerability and like willingness to be open from both people to find that like, oh wow, we're actually more similar than I thought. So it's like difficult, even more difficult to find someone that you connect with emotionally. Yeah. The other thing that comes with finding people that get you eventually is I have this fear of having friends right now, having all these friends right now that I enjoy spending time with, that I appreciate their friendship. But there's a weird dilemma when it comes to choosing how you allocate your time. And knowing that if you find someone that really gets you, you'd want to allocate more times towards them and less times towards the friends that you still value and appreciate and cherish and enjoy spending time with, but you feel like don't get you as much. And I think a lot of people see that as a diminishing connection, as in like, oh, you guys just drifted away, we're not as close anymore. But I think those aren't necessarily like mutual feelings of less time together means we're not as close. And it could mean we're just as close because our relationship can't get any closer than this. Because we can't ever understand each other emotionally in the way that we have different depths of that and the way we feel things or the way we see it, that there's like a natural barrier that blocks any deeper of a connection. But now I have found this person that I can go deeper with, so I want to allocate more time towards that person. But it doesn't mean you and this other person are any less close. And I think a lot of people tend to associate time spent with level of connection. And so people think, if I'm not spending as much time with you, that means we're not as close and we're drifting away, which has always felt weird to me because I'm like, I don't think so. I think with every relationship in my life, you kind of develop it to that, you take it as deep as it can go. And then some, you go really deep and some you can't. And so the ones where you kind of hit like a wall, you just start allocating less time to. But when you come together again, you're still at that same level of closeness. And I think that's what is worrisome, because I think a lot of people see it as like, if we're not spending as much time together, that means we're not close, we're drifting away. And it's like, no, we just are both looking for something more, but we're still going to be just as close when we reunite.
Yeah, it's just different levels of intimacy. that you can achieve with other people.
Mm-hmm. Which is why if you're listening and you found a friend that isn't spending as much time, I don't think you should always think about it as drifting away or you're not as close anymore. I don't think that's exclusive at all. I really think you can spend a year apart and come back and be just as close. But maybe I'm just an optimist, and that's just like an optimistic way.
I think you just have a unique perspective when it comes to like how you view friendships and stuff, because a lot of the times like you do need time with that other person to still have that connection. I mean, I agree that like, you know, sometimes like time can go on, and when you get back together, like when you see the other person, it feels like, you know, just like old times, or it feels just the same. But I think for a lot of people, they need the time spent with the other person, and they can't just like pick up where they last left off without having that like not constant but like somewhat of a regular occurrence, you know. So in that way I do think you're very optimistic, but I totally understand where you're coming from, and I partially agree, but it's just
it's kind of idealistic.
Very idealistic.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of people from high school that I get along with them, but again, they don't necessarily get me, so I spend less time with them. And yes, when we hang out, we pick up where we left off, but we did drift apart. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, like we're still friends, like we're still really good friends. They are a really good friend, but I can't say that we are still the same amount of friends that we once were. And that's okay. I mean, friends drift apart naturally, but yeah, I don't know. It's a little idealistic, but I do see where you're coming from, and I agree partially.
I think it's definitely glass half full or glass half empty. And a lot of people tend to see it glass half empty, in my opinion.
But I think which you can't really blame.
I can't blame them for it.
Because I'm sorry, but if I'm not seeing you, like, if we're not in contact, if we're not seeing each other, I'm gonna get the impression that we're not like good friends.
Of course. And when I say like not spending as much time together, I don't mean like, you know, you're ghosting them. It's like understanding that I think especially as you grow older, you can't balance as many close friendships at the same time. So you have your really close friendships that like are the deepest ones in your life that you talk to weekly, and then of course like you have the ones that are people that have known you for years. They know a lot of parts of your life, and they don't know the day to day. But I think even catching up with people every couple of months is enough to give them enough context on what's going on in your life that keeps that connection to each other's life strong. Because again, it's all about like context. And if you have context on the other person's life, you feel like you know what's going on, you feel like you still know them. If you don't get new additional context frequently, then that's when you start losing sight of who they were and they become a new person, and that's when you start to feel less close to them. And so I think having fulfilling friendships begins with reigniting the degree or reducing the degree of separation by having just little touch points here and there, which I think is just enough to keep that same level of closeness without needing the same level of time commitment that you might have had. But regardless, yeah. So that's that thought. Well, that's kind of it for this episode. It's a little bit of a shorter conversation, but I think you guys will get something out of it.
Hopefully.
I do.
I think
you got two good perspectives.
Maybe this isn't even something you realize you were missing until we talked about.
Yeah.
It's true. It's time to reevaluate your relationships.
What are you looking for?
Always a scary.
Yeah. But again, not every relationship has to be super fulfilling and they have to get you.
Some are just fun.
Some are just fun. Some are literally just friendships, and that's okay.
Yeah.
They just have different purposes.
There's
Not
just-
everyone needs a soul connection to every
Yeah,
person,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. There's just that
Have 10
connection that
soul
everybody
connections.
wants in life, and
Have 30 different soul connections and 3 twin flames. Man. Yeah.
That's what I
so
want.
I guess we're always on the lookout for that one twin flame. Soul connection.
Yeah.
You should get your cards read and ask when you'll find them.
at the small price of $500.
Oh my god, yeah.
That's in LA.
They will locate your twin flame for 5K.
It's
Small
I'm
price
so
to pay.
skeptical about card readings because everybody becomes a card reader nowadays. Like,
Literally.
I do wonder how that happens. But I don't know. I feel like when I get my cards read, and if it's even like slightly on point, I'm gonna be like, "Oh my god, I am coming
Oh,
back to
Kayla.
you monthly."
Kayla,
Like,
you believe the TikTok ones?
sometimes they're real.
The ones that the 8-year-olds are like doing.
Okay, no. I know which ones to believe. I know like my
She
real
knows.
ones.
So she has a selection.
I know my real ones. I do.
And the
I know my real
algorithm
ones.
finds you, and you're like, yeah.
And
yeah.
you know, let them find me.
Girl,
Let
the
them keep on
hashtags
coming.
found you, not the cards.
No,
like-
no hashtags, no nothing. No sound. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I'm very excited to get my cards read though. Like very excited because I feel like
How much would you be willing to spend?
like no more than. Actually, I don't know the rates on this,
Oh, they're
so
expensive.
They're
It's like
expensive.
$50, $40.
Oh, I was gonna-
expecting more.
I was gonna say no more than like 30.
It's like.
I mean, you can
usually.
maybe get it from like a classmate. I know a few people.
Yeah. See
I'm
what they say.
down.
Fuck around and find out.
I'm down. We'll
Gosh.
see. We'll update you guys on that. I'm excited.
I don't know what question to ask. Maybe the poll will be: do you feel like you have someone that truly gets you? And then I'll put a comment section. So, thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.